Hey, everybody. Good afternoon to you. It's Wednesday, 1 o'clock, and John Russell here with you. Some of you like to see what I put up behind me. Today, I have a live eagle cam. There's Mama Eagle. I think it's a Mama Eagle. And there's 3 babies up in that nest. I've been watching them a while now. So I'll lean over here. But you can see one of the little babies there. It's not a rabbit. It's not eating it. But anyway, happy to have all of you here. We do have a guest, Kevin Kramis, coming up. And he's having some net difficulties. He's going to be joining us from Detroit. And so we'll have a good time talking with him when he can get in. Until then, let's see what's going on that we can talk about. I want to remind you of a couple of things. First of all, many of my good friends that I've talked to on this little chatty chat have albums coming out. I want to remind you that Wendy Mayberry has her album coming out. You can pre-order it on Apple iTunes right now. It's called She's Not From Around Here. And it's very, very funny. So check that out. That's Wendy Mayberry. Day Peace has his available, Peace of Mind. He recorded that down in Mason City at the Community Theater. Turned out great. He's got not only the audio version available, he's also got several DVDs that you can buy from him. So check out Day Pieces. And then again, I want to remind you of Nathan Timmel's CD, which you can get everywhere. And that one, as I recall, was something about awkward. I should have written it down. Sorry, Nathan. Anyway, having said that, at 2 o'clock this afternoon, when I'm done with this one, today's a special twofer day, which is probably going to be a bit much for me, but special twofer day at 2 o'clock, we have a big announcement with Mike Fink from Peak Entertainment. And Mike has developed this kind of comedy contest, and he kind of told me about it and told Mark Poulos about it. And it was very, very interesting. But we'll talk about that at 2 o'clock. And here he is, famous Kevin Kramis.
What's going on, John? How are you doing?
I'm very, very good. Nice to meet you, sir.
You too.
I got to tell you, it's an interesting interview we're going to have today because you are from Detroit, Michigan.
I am.
And one of the reasons that I thought I would like to talk with you was that you talked about the fact that you'd opened for Nathan Timmel.
I have. That was a long time ago.
And you also are an avid user of the program that we both love, which is StreamYard. And so I wanted to talk to you about that because it's nice, and I want to see how things are going over in Detroit.
As best as they can be when you're locked down.
That's right. That's right. So is it? I don't know what it's like because I haven't been outside. Right? It's like you see stuff and you see that Detroit might be a hotbed for this stuff. Does it make you any more nervous or less nervous, or you just kind of stay at home and do your thing?
I'm not nervous about it at all. I'm relatively healthy. I live by myself, so
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm isolated already.
As I mentioned before all of this started, I've been practicing social distancing for 11 years.
Me too.
There you go. Up here, I have to say this. Oh, look, my son checked in. He is off quarantine, writing to Sam's. Do I need anything? 64 pack of AAAs or 10 pounds of cheese? No, but I need 9 months worth of laundry soap.
Yeah, right.
I love it. So my son, Kevin, actually had to quarantine for 2 weeks, and he actually just came off today.
Gotcha.
And thankfully, he was just sick. He didn't have the COVID, Corona, whatever you want to call it.
Well,
he did have 0 groceries, and he says, "Here, take my Sam's card. Go over to Sam's Club and get me." And I'm like, "Good God, how much hamburger do you need?" You know, Chris. Well, they're 1 pound. They're 1 pound little squares, but there's 6 of them fused together. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. Do not get me anything from over there. Don't do it. Don't. I don't need anything from Sam's right now. Anyway, so Kevin, I don't know you at all, and that's why this is going to be fun for me, because I get to find out about you. So tell me, and one of the other things too that I noticed on your Facebook profile is you also do PA announcing, which is something else, something that I do too. So what events are you announcing?
Currently, I'm the voice of Wayne State Athletics, Wayne State University. I'm the backup voice for most of the events at Eastern Michigan University. I'm the voice of Eastern Michigan's volleyball team.
Wow.
Their gymnastics team. I'm the backup public address announcer for the Detroit Tigers.
Holy cow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very awesome.
I've been doing it forever.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And so my only big claim to fame is at this point, I've been doing the kindergarten through 8th grade Minnesota State High School tournament for close to 20 years now. And unfortunately, this year would have been happening right now. And so unfortunately, it got canceled.
I'm so bummed about basketball. I love basketball.
Oh my gosh. Everything that got canceled is rough. It's rough. So tell me about when you started in comedy, Kevin.
I got snuck into a comedy club by a couple of friends of mine when I was in high school in 1986. Actually, 1985. Night before Thanksgiving, 1985, they snuck me in to see a real live comedy show. It was in Canada because it was, Canada, we're right across, the bridge. Yep. And so it's younger to drink in Canada. And I was underage anyways, but they snuck me into this comedy club to see this guy named Leo Dufour, who is the owner of the Comedy Corner and comedian. And I've been around it ever since. I thought I was mesmerized that night. I walked up to Leo. I'm like, man, how do I do this? And I was like 17. And he gave me a match pack with his phone number, and said, call me when you ever want to go on stage and come into the club anytime you want. Watch it. He goes, the best thing to do is watch it, just study it, Yeah. And, so I started going to the club as much as I could back then. I had a PA announce a high school basketball game, and then when everybody go to Burger King or whatever to go do whatever they did, I would run to Canada and see the comedy show, And then he started putting me up on stage in like 1980, end of 86.
Okay.
So
you kind of caught the tail end of the boom.
Exactly.
And but gosh, that must have been that was the days when an opening act could get paid, $400 or $500 a week, huh?
It was nice. Yeah. I emceed forever because I still MC, but it's not what it was, back then. An MC was making, like you said, good money. Feature act could make a living back then.
Yeah. Yeah, which is hard to do now. Hard to do now. Unless
it's hard to do as a headliner.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's the? Are you still pretty active in the comedy scene in Detroit? I know a handful of guys from over that way, but we don't cross paths as much as I'd like. I would assume that the open mic scene over there is very similar to here in Minneapolis.
It's huge. The open mic scene here it's huge. There's, for a bunch of reasons. One, social media has really exploded being able to promote your show, whether it's on your front porch or in a bar or in a moose lodge. It's. Yep. And then the other thing is, and I don't know if I'm sure it's probably the same there, is we have a couple of comics here that teach the classes, and so every 8 weeks or something, there's another batch of comics that come out there, and then, they, because there isn't any, back in the 80s and early 90s, there was a comedy club on every corner. You could work 300 weeks or 300, you could work 40 weeks without driving more than 300 miles, And now these kids are forced to all do their own shows. So they graduate from the class, you know how it is. And then they start. So there's an open mic night, 8 nights a week, 40 days a month.
Absolutely. So tell me, have you gotten yourself involved in any of the virtual open mics?
I have not done a virtual open mic. I did help out with this software. There was, have you ever done the gig in Mishawaka, Indiana on Tuesday nights?
I know of it. I have not done it.
It's a great gig. It's a great gig. If you're crossing across the country, it's a great, they feed you, nice people. So they had that's what the Michiana area of the country, they call that. And so there's a Michiana bar rescue GoFundMe page that apparently since the shutdown happened down, Indiana, Michigan border down there, they started doing musicians every night on Facebook to raise money for service industry people down there. And so they decided, because Tuesday night was comedy night at the Smokestack in Mishawaka, that they would do a comedy showcase night last Tuesday.
Okay.
And so I actually emceed the show using this platform, which it went flawless. I couldn't have been happier with the way the technical end of it went.
Yeah.
I love this software.
And did they have a pretty good number of people watching?
It appeared to, it would go up to 50 or 60, and then it would fall, and it's funny. There was 8 comics. It was over 2 hours. It was, it was mostly, I was just on the World Wide Web, and it was shared on my Facebook, but it was essentially linked all down in that area. Facebook's down there, South Bend area. And so it was at 7 o'clock at night. And I don't know if this is coincidence or anything to do with it, but a couple of the comics were a little bluer than you might want to be at 7 o'clock at night. Gotcha. And you watch the 50, and then they say a word that's offensive, and they go zap down to like 18 and then back up to 23.
Yeah, that happens here once in a while.
Yeah.
But it's mostly when I talk about gross stuff, like burning off my skin tags.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. See, there it goes down right now.
I can't see how many you got on my end, and you don't see that on this end.
Yeah, we got about 9 cooking right now.
Oh, we're packing them in.
10. We're getting. Oh yeah, this is one of those things where I do it, and as I mentioned in the description, mostly for my own mental health. I do this, Kevin, because and you didn't get there. I've had 3 of my friends that have albums. Nathan Timmel was one of them. Wendy Mayberry, Day Peace, and I've talked with all of them. Talk about their albums. I do this mostly for my own mental health, so I have some reason to get up. Because honestly, in this situation, I got nothing cooking. I mean, 0 cooking.
I hear you, brother.
It's like my son calls me, "Hey, I'm going to go to Sam's." Well, that's great. I can't even do that. I mean, I can do it, but I can't do it with you. I got to wait until you're. I mean, whatever.
Right.
Point being, this is all, and I honestly, I say this at the end of every one of these things I do. Anybody that watches, thanks, because you have absolutely 0 reason to watch.
Yeah, right. Well, you know what? Who knows? Somebody might get something out of. Who knows? I mean,
well, that's the thing. I think that it's something. One of the reasons I do it is because it's nice. It helps keep people sharp. And there is an element to finding out about people that you don't necessarily know, and even the people that I know that I've worked with. I don't know everything about them, because let's be honest, as comedians, we know each other, but we don't really know each other, and so I'm able to ask some more personal questions that maybe I wouldn't do if we're out sitting in a green room or after a show having a drink. So.
Sure.
Anyway, got off the track again. All right.
So where are you? And you're in Minneapolis?
I'm in Minneapolis. Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
And Minneapolis is the home of many a burgeoning virtual open mic. We got a couple that are actually just as good. You'll see some of them in Los Angeles. They've got some big name folks that are doing them. And we've got a comic up here in Minneapolis named Ali Sultan. And he's doing some of these virtual open mics on Instagram, and he's getting some really big names to come on and do this with him. And they're doing 7, 8, 10 minutes.
Right.
And it's an interesting thing. Not for me personally. I'm doing a storytelling deal, I guess, on Saturday, with another comedian, Dan Bublitz. But storytelling, I think I can handle. Me trying to tell my bits to nothing, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it.
It's different, isn't it? It is definitely that the thing I did the other night, the showcase night. It was all people at work. It was Kathy Dice was on it, and Steve Sabo, and
Oh yeah.
Bob J.
Oh
Max Doselli. So there was some guns, and so and then there was a couple of newer comics that I didn't know, but they were newer guys. But like Bob J was great. Bob J was like this in the screen.
Yeah.
And he just rattled for 15 minutes with his voices. It worked really well.
So talented.
And then he put the Ozzy Osbourne wing on, and he like came up to the screen, and dude, he looked just like Ozzy Osbourne. Like it worked for the medium. And then there was the couple of other people that tried to like riff. The couple of new guys, they tried to kind of just stay in their house and kind of riff about the day, and
it's hard without any feedback.
Yeah, yeah. And then like Kathy Dice, who I've worked with a bunch of times, she's open for me. I love her. She did her act. She sat in a chair, in her lounge chair, in her living room, and just did her jokes and paused, and it worked because the pause tells you where the laugh is.
Right.
So it worked. People commented, "Oh, that was funny. Oh, I like that." They would, but the guys that just sat there and tried to, man, today I was doing my thing, it just didn't come off like it would. Yeah. You can't do crowd work when you can't get a response from the crowd.
Yeah, you can't do no crowd work with no crowd.
Yeah, you might be able to work Alexa,
and Alexa sometimes doesn't even get it.
Exactly.
So you've been doing this for quite a while, Kevin. One of the things I like to ask is, who is the coolest, in your opinion, the coolest comic that you ever got to work with?
And that's such a tough question because there's just so many good people in this business.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a lot of good friends that like nobody knows who the heck they are. Ben Creed, who's Billy Gardell's opening act. I'm friends with Billy.
Yep.
And but like Ben and I are like brothers. I talk to him like daily during this crap, and he lives in Dallas. And Leo Dufour, who I got to meet the first time I walked into a comedy club. Him and I was his opening act, middle act for years. Not because I was funny, because I had a nice car.
That's one of the beautiful things about this business. In some, not all, but in some comics cases, it's hey buddy, how much time you got? Whatever. You got a driver's license? Yeah. Hey, you're my new opening act.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, I had, and I know a couple guys, and you probably know one of them because he's from Michigan, and he's since passed, and he was a sweet man, but he could never drive himself anywhere, and he always had somebody that drove him. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Exactly what you're talking about.
And the driving was always the promise of a guest spot. But always, anytime and I worked with him several times, and always had a driver that had a guest spot. One time the guy was really good. Couple of times not so much, but whatever, you got to do what you got to do, right?
You got to do. This is a really interesting business when it comes to the people that we know in the business, like that gentleman. I mean, just one of the sweetest, funniest people But and when you stand there and you watch somebody on stage, you never, if they're funny and you like them, you don't even think about what it's like behind the curtain,
right?
You don't think that maybe that person had a bad day. Maybe that person lives in his car. Maybe that person doesn't have a car. Maybe you don't.
Yeah.
Because we're all up there, hey, how's it going? Our job is to be the happy clown. And then when we take the makeup off, not all of us, most of us are happy, but it's different,
Yeah. Well,
It's just different.
and it also goes with TV credits, etc. I had the good fortune to work with a gentleman who had been on one of the last David Letterman shows, but I got to work with him 2 weeks after he did it, and ended up driving him to the gig. And I says, "Oh my gosh, nobody's going to believe I drove a guy from Letterman in this car." And he says, "Yeah," and I still only made 17 grand last year.
Yeah.
Right. So it's there's a lot of I don't want to say facade, but everybody thinks, "Oh my gosh, you're a performer. You must just be." No, we're not rolling in it. I live in a basement.
Showbiz.
Exactly. There he is. Donnie caught a trout. Well, that's perfect, Mikey. I like to pop up the comments just because most of them don't mean anything.
Yeah, well, that's what they're there for. They're watching us. I mean, if people got a question, they don't have. What are they going to ask me? They don't know who I am. I'm a guy from Detroit,
and they barely know me. They barely know me. So let's talk about. You've been doing this again a long time. Let's talk about some of the hell gigs that you've had.
Wow, there's been a lot of those. Did you ever work the Lansing? The gig was great. Did you ever work the condos? I always think about funny condos. The old Lansing condo where you couldn't get pizza delivered to it. I remember that working. It was in such a bad neighborhood that me and John Heffron were working there one time. We called pizzerias, and they're like, "Man, we don't come to that neighborhood." But again, there you go. You're on stage that night in this shiny club under the spotlight, wearing a nice shirt. Hey, how's it going, folks? And you go back to the crack house neighborhood and huddled inside a home, hoping that you live the next day to be able to do another show.
I did a gig up in Northwest Minnesota, and granted it's rural, but we get to the hotel and it's like there's a sign that says, "Go get your key from the Cenex." From the convenience store. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. We had to walk across the street to the gas station. And if the gas station, because it closed at 11, if we'd have got there late, we'd have been screwed. They had pretty good fried chicken. C-store fried chicken. That's the business right there.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, exactly. What they call? What's the name of that? There's a name. There's a name of that.
Chester Fried.
Chester Fried.
He named his trout. He named his trout Eisenhower. This is a running joke. My brother-in-law, Mike Holmes, he likes to come in, tell me, "Wait, where's my Eisenhower jokes?" And then if I don't make with the Eisenhower jokes, he gets mad and leaves. I love Eisenhower.
I just read this on Facebook. It said Dewey beat Truman. I saw that on Facebook. Dewey beats Truman.
Oh my gosh! So in Detroit, there's a lot of great comedies come out of Detroit, and there's a lot of legendary names that have come out of there. Of course, Billy Gardell and Tool Time. Gosh, I can't think. Tim Allen.
Billy's from Pittsburgh.
Oh, he's from Pittsburgh.
Billy's a Pittsburgh guy. They grew up, I want to say, mostly in Florida.
And gosh! Well, no,
and he's lived all over. He's lived all over the country, but this is not one of the places.
It's not. So Frank, do you know Frank Roach?
I do know Frank Roach very well.
Frank. Yeah, I love Frank. I thought Frank is a Detroit boy, and he talks about Billy. So I just assumed that they were together. I didn't do that lookup.
No, I think he probably met Billy. He met him on the road somewhere. But yeah, I've known Frank since he was an open micer.
Frank's awesome.
Great kid, very funny.
One of the nicest guys you can come across.
He lives in your area, is that?
Yeah, he does. He's in western Wisconsin right now.
Gotcha.
Gosh, I'm trying to think the last time I got to work with him. It was I think it was up in Duluth, and we had a great time. And that's one of those where it's we drive up, we do the show, and then drive home. Because it's 2.5 hours. That's 2.5 hours is a good range for here. What's it road work wise? What's your range?
Used to be anywhere, but now it's just based on the money.
Gotcha.
I mean,
yeah. What I meant was, I guess I should have clarified it. What I was talking about is like I'll do shows anywhere, just like you. If there's a show and it's like, okay, you're going to get paid this much and it's this many hours, how far will you go out, do the show, and then come home before you get a room? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know what? That's a good question. Farther than most people think now, right? I mean, I find myself, I've driven 4 or 5 hours. I've driven to almost Chicago before and come home.
Yeah.
You know, and even if there's a room, sometimes if it's a one-nighter, a lot of times I come home now. You know, I mean, and I don't drink. I used to drink a lot, not like a lot volume, but like it was part of hanging out after the show and all that kind of stuff, and I don't do that anymore. So, you know, I don't have to stay because I'm sober to drive home, and you know, but normally, you know, if the money's right, 4 hours. You know, I like this. Not in the winter necessarily. I mean, but 4 hours. I'll drive.
4 hours seems about right. Yeah, I'll go over to Lake Michigan and come back if I can work it out where I can leave right after the set.
Yeah,
I gotta hang around any longer. I'm like, nah. But
and I just did a gig down by Columbus, just north of Columbus, for a friend of mine, a lady who used to be from Detroit, Mary Miller, who's a comic, and just did a gig right before the wheels fell off the bus, and that was like 3 hours. I want to say, like I left there at about 10 o'clock after the show, and I was home by 1:30 after stopping to go to the bathroom. So that's about the money was right.
Yeah.
You know, so
makes perfect sense.
And she would have put me up, but the weather was nice. It wasn't snowing. There's nobody on the roads. You know, I like driving. Driving doesn't bother me. I look at that as part of our job. You know. Yeah,
to me that's part of the fun is driving. I enjoy it, and a lot of people say, "Oh my gosh, that's got to be." It really isn't. I really like driving, and what are you going to do? I mean, if I get a room, I stay in it as long as possible.
Yeah, when was it? The 13th, so like the 14th and 15th or something like that of March, whatever that Tuesday, Wednesday was. 17th and 18th, something like that. I was supposed to do Billy Ray Bowers, comic from Detroit, was doing a 2-night run for Bonkers in Blacksburg, Virginia, and Cumberland, Maryland. And he was looking for. I didn't have anything booked like 2 months ago, and he was looking for somebody to go for a ride.
Yeah.
He was fishing for a new guy to be able to get in with Bonkers, but I didn't have nothing to do, and I'm like, the money was. I think it was only like $250, but for the 2 nights. But I had nothing to do. I didn't have any games. I had a gig on the weekend. And so I was like, well, if he's driving and he's paying for the gas, I'll go for the ride. I mean, that's a crazy drive. But he's, he was making $1,000 or something for the 2 nights, So that's a great gig for him. And I would ordinarily close those gigs that Bonkers closes me, but I had nothing to do. So I'll go to make that. Absolutely. I know a lot of guys are too proud to do that, but I'm not. I'm going to ride with my friend. I'm going to have a good time. They're going to feed me. I'm going to make a couple of bucks. I don't know. I'd rather be doing that than I would kill to do that. I would kill to drive 10 hours right now to make $300, dude.
I think we all would. Oh my gosh. So if you've done stuff for Bonkers, I'm sure you've done that room in Harris.
Yes. Oh yeah. I did it the first night before they had it. Ralph Tedder was the first comic on that stage ever, and I was the second. Derek Richards was the third. That was when it was in the lounge. Did you ever do it when it was in the lounge?
Nope, never did it in the lounge.
You did it in that lounge around the corner from where it's at right now. That was a pool where the show's at right now. That was the pool. And so around the corner, when you walk in that door of that casino, and believe there's still a bar there, and that showroom's off to the right. And so we did it in that bar, and it was one of those stages where you're on stage and the liquor bottles were right in front of you.
Oh,
you know,
my God.
and then the bar was right there, and then people were sitting at the bar playing poker machines watching you. It was crazy.
Perfect.
But yeah, I was like the first feature act on that stage. That's a great gig. I love that gig.
It is. It's nice because it's a Sunday. Yeah,
Yes.
There's my brother Alexander. Yep, there is an eagle on my shoulder today, my friend. This is one of the live eagle cams. There's an eagle. Let me. Now it's screwed up.
Oh,
live eagle cam. There's 3 baby eagles there. I don't know if you can see them, but there's 3 on there, and I think they're trying to eat one of the smaller ones. But that's because that's nature. Gosh. So let's see. What else can we talk about? In your announcing at Wayne State and some of those. Now, I'll be honest with you. I haven't followed college sports or professional sports other than the NFL for quite a while. Have you had anybody that went through any of the schools that you announced for that went on to work professionally?
I announced games for played at Detroit Country Day. Oh, well, Cassius Winston, Michigan State. I announced him in high school. Chris Webber, I announced when he was at Detroit Country Day. I announced state. It was probably a regional game, regional final at Schoolcraft College, high school final. That was that was a long time ago.
A while ago, yeah.
I used to be the backup public address announcer for the Toledo Mud Hens.
Oh, cool.
So I put some guys like Doug Pfister did his rehab when Doug Pfister was with the Tigers. So I got to announce his rehab start.
Nice.
I announced Aroldis Chapman's USPA announced his U.S. debut with when he was with the farm team for Cincinnati. Can't think of the name of that team. And it's interesting because the Mud Hens hit him that game. You know, he's a 3-digit pitcher. You know, he's a 106-mile-an-hour pitcher.
Yeah.
But that was his first game, and he was throwing heat. He was throwing 105, 104.
Oh,
it's crazy to see that. And you're in that press box, and you're closer than you are in MLB. You know, you're there, and you could hear that. Just the way that ball hit that mitt was completely different than your average AAA, AA pitcher.
Throwing the smoke. It
was pretty crazy. That was a fun gig. The world famous Toledo Mud Hens.
Oh my gosh. I can just imagine. Well,
that was fun.
Do you have anything that's coming up? Did you have a bunch of stuff that canceled?
I had a bunch of games. I had gigs that canceled. But I haven't. I'm not sure if this is canceled or not. But I anticipate that it will be. I'm the voice of the of USA Taekwondo for their national tournament.
Oh,
they're the folks that do the Olympics for Taekwondo for US. And in fact, I was in Minneapolis last year for a week. That was the first time I was ever in town other than a layover.
Oh, yeah.
I was announcing their tournament down at the convention center.
Oh, very cool.
For over 4th of July weekend. So it was great. You're in a fun town. That was a fun town to hang out in.
It is. It's a nice place. It's a fun place. And what time of year were you here?
I was there through 4th of July.
Oh, so beautiful here in the summer.
It was hotter than the Dickens last year. It was like unseasonably hot, but it was great. I mean, we're mostly inside for the tournament. It's a 7-day. There's competition 7 days a week, so I was inside most of the time. But I'm a distance runner. I've run a couple of marathons and run stuff, and so I was training last year when I was in Minneapolis, and so I got to run pretty much every day. I ran that whole city from top to bottom. I had a 10-mile run, a 12-mile run. So I was all over that town.
Very cool.
It's beautiful there.
Well, Kevin, I don't know if I have any other questions. Do you have anything else cooking?
I don't. You know what? I was so funny. I was talking about Bonkers. They just rebooked me. I was supposed to do that Cumberland, Maryland run in a couple weeks last week, and they canceled it. And so they rebooked me for July 16th down there to close it. So I'm really hoping that the wheels go back on the bus, before too long. I hope baseball comes back, though it sounds like baseball is going to be playing out in Arizona now, maybe, huh? That's what they want to.
I don't know. I don't. I mean, I understand part of it. I understand it's nice to entertain people, but the reality is, I don't know how they're going to make any money at it. I don't think they will, and because nobody can go watch it. And is it enough to watch with nobody there? Is it enough to just watch the game with no atmosphere? I don't know. I mean, I certainly am not going to, thumb my nose at anything.
I'm not either. I mean, I could go for the entertainment. I'm starting to have an issue with the haves and the have-nots being able to do stuff. Like, if I'm not allowed to go to the game, what makes the players safe? Like, how long's that dugout going to be from home plate to the foul pole?
Yeah.
Keep them all 6 feet apart. How you going to tag a guy?
Exactly. There's a good question. Can you play the guitar, or is it just kind of like my eagle in the background?
I can play. I can play guitar.
Do you want to? Do you want to?
You know what? I mean, I'm a hobby guy. I don't play it on stage.
Just play something crazy because my brother is not real great at listening.
That's funny. In that, what year was it? 2007. Christmas 2007 was the year of Guitar Hero.
Yes.
That was when everybody got Guitar Hero, and I'm not a gamer, but I picked this up in the garbage right after that. So all the people in 2007 that got Guitar Hero and learned how to do it, they can't do crap with their guitar player hero, and I learned how to play the guitar, and I play all the Detroit songs, like this one. That's Eminem. That's Eminem. I play all the Detroit songs. That's
the 7-something Army.
Yeah, 7-something Army. Yeah. Which is very similar to. Right in the same wheelhouse as my. Yeah. But I'm a big Bob Seger fan, so that's my whole goal when I got this was to kill time. When I got this that winter, because it was in wintertime, and so the whole goal, and I went online, the goal was to be able to play Bob Seger.
Yeah, nice move.
A little too tall, could have used a few pounds. Tight pants, points, hardly renowned. She was a black-haired beauty, big dark eyes. Points of her own, way up high. Way up firm and high. Out past the cornfields, the winds got heavy. Out in the back seat of my '60 Chevy. Working on mysteries, ain't got a clue. Working on a night move. Trying to lose them awkward teenage blues. Working on a night move. Oh. So that's what I learned how to play that.
That's awesome. Very, very good. Very, very good, my brother.
Not everybody gets that.
I got to tell you, I'm absolutely impressed. Did you ever think about being a guitar comic?
You know what? It's so funny. I have not had the courage to walk on stage with a guitar for some reason. I walk on stage. I've been all over the world. I've done cruise ships. I've done military bases overseas, and I can't go on stage with a guitar. I just don't have the courage.
You certainly seem to have the ability.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's fun. Kills time.
It does. It does. Well, Kevin, I'm gonna say a fond farewell to you. I got another big announcement show coming up at 2:00.
I saw my my Greek cousin Mark is going to be on the show. I saw that. You know what? I don't personally know Mark. We've corresponded. I know I booked a one-nighter back years ago. I know Mark. I'm pretty sure Mark did it, but we've never crossed paths. But I know people that are say very good things of Mark Poulos.
He's like my comedy daddy.
Yeah, everybody loves that guy, so I gotta love that guy too. And he's Greek, so
right.
He's my cousin.
Every guest must play an instrument. I don't. Maybe. I don't know if I like that, but we got a lot to live up to. Kevin Kramis,
thanks, brother.
Kevin Kramis, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
You're entirely welcome. And folks, if you would like to tune back in at 2:00, we've got another stream coming up, and that will be the big announcement for Peak Entertainment, the big comedy contest. That will be happening here in the 4-state area, not a 3-state area, not a 2-state area, but 4. So that'll be with Mike Fink and Mark Poulos. You guys, thanks again for watching. Again, you got no reason to watch us, and I really appreciate those of you that did. I really do.
Thank you, man.
You guys, have a great one. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks, man.